And we are back with the third segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this third segment, I'm going to be talking about Team USA and their minutes and just, how underutilized some of these players on the team really are, as well as, my opinions on Steve Kerr and his coaching methods and things like that. Especially in this game because this was arguably one of the most trending topics in all of basketball and throughout the rest of the Olympics, aside from, the actual games and the scoring. So, basically, Jayson Tatum in this matchup. Now, the Steve Kerr, he said several times that really, and also Halliburton, I forgot to mention. But Steve Kerr has mentioned several times that the United States is going to play based off of, matchups. So, depending on who and what team they play with and they play against is going to depend on the lineup that they bring out. So, it's like, they are going to bring out a different lineup going up against Serbia. They would bring out a different lineup going against Spain. They would bring out a different lineup going up against Germany. Things like that. Like, in almost every single exhibition game that they played, there was the only definite starters were LeBron, Steph, and Joel Embiid. And the only players that, and every single time, the matchups, they would sort of change. So, the players, they would play a certain amount of minutes, and, it would change every single game. So it would be aside from LeBron would play in almost every single minute, every single time. And thing with Steph. But, as the games changed, Joel Embiid saw less time on the court. As the games changed, Jrue Holiday sometimes would see less time on the court. Derek White would also see some more or less time on the court, depending on the matchup. So there's never a guaranteed rotation or a way to fill in this lineup. And that's the biggest problem that I have with Steve Kerr. Just the fact, I have no problem with, working off of, making your starting lineup so that way it best suits the situation that you're in and it better suits your matchups. But the minutes and, just how long players can play, especially someone like Jayson Tatum, Tyrese Halliburton, maybe not, but someone like Jayson Tatum, I feel deserves these minutes on the court. Again, I totally understand Halliburton not playing because they have a lot of point guards and they have a lot of guards that just are arguably better. But Jayson Tatum, I don't really see that same thing. Aside from Kevin Durant and LeBron, there's really no other player at his position that plays like him. And again, those are the only two small forwards that are better than him, and the only two small forwards that are even on the team, LeBron and Kevin Durant. So with that in mind, I don't think there should be any reason that Jayson Tatum shouldn't be playing in any of these games. I mean, his value that he brings, not just on the offensive side, but also on the defensive side, is something that's really, really valuable. Now, again, I understand that this was, Kevin Durant's homecoming game, and, he needed to get a lot of minutes in this game to sort of, loosen up. But he only played 16. Of all the starters, the only starter that didn't get more minutes than him was Embiid. And Embiid never gets more minutes than anyone else on Team USA. It's really amazing to me that Jayson Tatum was unable to see the court. Meanwhile, you have his two teammates, Jrue Holiday and Derek White, who have seen the court way more than him in this specific game and it doesn't make any sense, because Jayson Tatum is arguably the best player on his team, and here he has Jrue Holiday and Derek White playing more minutes than him. So, it's one of two things that I think is going on here. So, one, Steve Kerr's rotations are terrible, or two, Steve Kerr is trying to become the ultimate head coach mastermind and just completely meddle with the entire Boston Celtics and their core players. Because, think of it this way. Now, he gets Jayson Tatum and Jrue Holiday on the roster. Then, when a roster spot opens up, he chooses Derek White as opposed to Jaylen Brown, therefore causing tension between Jaylen Brown and the rest of the starters because, Jaylen Brown, he won the Eastern Conference Finals MVP and the Finals MVP and wasn't selected over Derek White. And that's going to sting him. Like, that would sting anyone that wins an award and doesn't get recognized for it by making the Olympics. Like, that would sting anyone. And then, on top of that, in this game with Jayson Tatum, he forces Jayson Tatum to not play a single minute of this game, meanwhile lets his teammates, Jrue Holiday and Derek White, get all the minutes. So, this could be just like, a big brain move from Steve Kerr to try and, mess with the rest of the Boston Celtics and cause a trouble in paradise so that way the Celtics can't win another championship and go back-to-back, or that they would want to split up and do whatever it is that they want to do. That could be, that's just a possibility. I'm not saying that that's what I think. That could be a possibility in what Steve Kerr is doing. But, I've seen Steve Kerr and his rotations are very, very questionable, especially with his time on Golden State. He has some very, very questionable rotations. And I understand that trying to balance playing time between Kevin Durant, Jayson Tatum, and all of the other starters is going to be a bit of a problem, but it shouldn't be. It really shouldn't be a problem. It should be that you should be able to put any of these players with each other, and they can play with each other just fine. Like, I don't see a single reason why Jayson Tatum cannot be in that bench unit, and then here and there just get subbed out with LeBron, and here and there gets subbed out by KD, and the other way around. I don't see why they have to. I don't understand why he's so guard heavy. Like, he plays every single guard aside from Tyrese Halliburton. And mainly because, the rest of those guards, they like playing the perimeter defense. But no, like, Devin Booker, yes, he should get minutes, but he shouldn't play at the same time when two other guards are playing. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that at all. Like, I understand it's a very positionless basketball, but, like, you gotta play based off of, the way I see it, you should play based off of, defensive liability and height. Like, if you have some ridiculous offense, you need to have some other players on the defense to compensate for your high offense. It can't just be offense on the court. And I understand part of the reason why that the rest of the players are playing, like, for example, why Jrue Holiday and Derek White are playing, are mainly because of their defense. I don't understand why Jayson Tatum cannot play. Now, I understand why you wouldn't want Halliburton playing, because, again, it's like you're choosing between a player that is passing, that loves to pass first, against another player that, like, so I'm comparing Derek White and Tyrese. You have a player that really likes to pass the ball, but you got a player that likes to play defense as well as pass the ball. Like, I feel like you're going to pick the player that plays defense, especially when you have a team that's loaded with offensive talent. Now, Erica Johnson's in the chat. What's up? Yep, nothing much. Just, talking about the Olympics and how Tatum is just not seeing the court. Steve Kerr, he recently said that he was actually, Jayson Tatum was going to play in the next game, but who is going to sit out if Jayson Tatum is going to play? I don't agree with that at all. I feel like every single one of the players should be able to play at not at the same time, but they should be able to play in the same game. And you should already have a rotation set up for these kinds of players. Like, that should already be something that you have set up. I understand you had to wait for Kevin Durant to be fully healthy, but still you should have had theories and things like that already set up and ready for this, for these kinds of Olympic games. Like, it's just unacceptable that you don't, in my opinion. So that's all that I have really on Tatum and Halliburton getting benched. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and go into the fourth segment where I talk about why Joel Embiid was getting booed by the French national, well, not really the French national team, but by the French people in the stands and in the stadium, because a lot of people were really surprised that he was getting booed. Like, they don't understand why he was getting booed. So I'm just going to go ahead and explain that for all of you guys that don't know why he was getting booed. Like, a lot of people thought that he was getting booed because, like, of the fact that he's just not been playing that well in the United States. But it's a little bit more than that, and some people just, they didn't really understand that it was more than that. So I'm going to talk about it after this short break, so be sure to stay tuned.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.